So hi there and welcome to Boxing Media Hub, proudly in partnership with Falcon Contracting and Jam's Boxing Chat. And we're back after missing last week due to illness. I'm sorry for that. We're back with Boxing Media Hub's Boxing Hour, featuring myself, Jam, and my main man from Cincinnati, Ohio, USA, Mr. Serhan Dai. How are you today, Serhan, brother?
I'm doing good here in the States. How about yourself across the Atlantic?
Yeah, I'm doing better than I was last week, matey. Let's put it that way. Doing a lot better than I was last week. Thank you for asking, brother. So what we're going to do today is we've got a special feature, as usual, that me and Serhan have created. That's going to be, it's the 10 most wild and crazy scenes in boxing. That's coming up soon. But first, we'll start with not last weekend's card, the card the week before, because we missed that one. So we'll start with Virgil Ortiz against Serhai Boachuk. Did you watch this one, Serhan? It was a bit of a bad decision for me. What did you make to it?
Well, it was a cracker of a fight for beginners. Second part was I have an article on the meanwhile like sports site. If you haven't read it, check it out.
Yeah, I read it.
I thought at worst it was a draw. I mean, I understand every side of it. I mean, the scoring wasn't as bad as people make it out to be because it was one round either way.
No.
But I mean, it was could have gone either way. I thought a draw would have been understandable at that point, and I think also at this point, I think a rematch is necessary. But I thought the good thing is Virgil Ortiz, when he couldn't knock a guy out, went to the well and really found ways to win when he couldn't get a guy out. He won the last 4 rounds of that fight, and I thought that was very impressive for him.
Yeah, it wasn't a robbery or anything. There's no chance people can call it a robbery. It was just a close fight that some people believe it went one way, some people believe the other. A lot of people thinking it should have been a draw.
Yeah, I thought a draw would have been accurate. You know, a 1 or 2 point fight either way. You know, it could have gone either way. But I thought it was a draw. But I said maybe because how Ortiz won the last 4 rounds, because judges can't be swayed by that, and I think that's how it got swayed into his factor.
Yeah, because he was in the ascendancy towards the end of the fight. That kind of made the judges think he was in the ascendancy the whole fight. If that first round knockdown would have counted like it should have done, the ref didn't give it as a knockdown, then Boachuk wins by a point. You know what I mean?
They actually did give it a knockdown in the end. I remember they had.
They did.
Remember. I think after like the 5th round, they went to the replay and they called a knockdown afterwards.
Oh, fantastic! I didn't actually know that, matey, to be honest. But Serhai wants the rematch for sure. He's bang up for the rematch.
That's the only acceptable fight at this time for either guy.
Yeah, there was talk about Virgil Ortiz Jr. against Bud, weren't there? I thought that's why they skanked him on the card. That's why they skanked Boachuk. Because they were like already in talks with Bud, you know what I mean? But that don't seem to be materialising now. There's not much chatter about it anymore.
I mean, it's still possible, but honestly, I think Ortiz would be tailor-made for Crawford.
Yeah, it'd be light work. It'd be light work for Bud Crawford.
Right.
Definitely. I'm just going to run through a couple of comments that came in. Håkan Johansson saying, big up, lads. Big up to yourself, Håkan, all the way from Sweden. Thank you for joining, my brother. We've got SW Fight Hub, Sam Walker. Big up to yourself, Sam. And fantastic show last night, mate. He started his new show every Wednesday, 7:30. Him and Liam Tully and Jay's Fight Talk. It was fantastic, honestly. They got right into the action. Honestly, one of the best shows I've watched. I really enjoyed it. So big up to yourself, Sam, and thank you for tuning in.
Shout out to Sam Walker. He has good stuff in boxing, also some MMA. I got a chance to check him out over the weekend also. He's got excellent stuff.
Yeah, he covers all the fights. Like, he's not just boxing. He does, like, all fighting. Bare knuckle, MMA, covers it all, mate. Whatever is interesting.
And he does a great job with it. Much love to him.
He does, bless him. Mr. Neutral's joined, obviously one of my favourites, as everyone knows who watches me. He's my boy, my main man. And he's just saying, good evening, gentlemen. Good evening to yourself, Mr. Neutral. And my boy from Wales, Jab Boxing's joined us. Big up to yourself, Jabs. He's just saying good evening to everyone. Good evening to yourself, my man.
Good evening, Jab. Good evening, Jab. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, Jabs is a lovely fella, mate. One of my favourites on X. He's a really, real, true gentleman, honestly. Got a lot of love and respect for Jabs. Sam has said, big up, guys. I really appreciate that. Love the show. Thank you so much, mate. We appreciate that. Right, so the second fight then, guys, what we're going to go to was Gabriela Fundora. Now, she took on Daniela Asenjo. It was a pretty comfortable victory in my eyes. Did you watch that one, Serhan, and what's your thoughts?
I thought she might have had a chance to get a knockout, but she still got the job done. You got to give her all the credit. I mean, you think about the bloodlines with her brother Sebastian Fundora, and it's the same thing. We have the bloodlines that can do the job. You got to give them the due. I mean, it was a great performance by her. Much love.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Gabby Fundora. I'm a big fan of Sweet Poison. She's fantastic. She made it look pretty easy in the end. And Asenjo's a tough operator. She ain't nobody's mug. She's been in with some good fighters.
Oh yeah, Sendejo's a tough female fighter, but made the Fundora victory very more impressive.
Yeah, definitely. And it's nice to see that both of them were world champions at the same time. Brother and sister both holding world titles. That's amazing, isn't it?
Yes.
Definitely. Okay then, mate. So that's all I care about from last week's card. So we'll move on to last weekend's card, the one just gone. We'll start with Christian Mbili. He took on Sergei Derevyanchenko. This was a solid fight, but like I told everyone, Derevyanchenko was not going to get knocked out. He doesn't get knocked out. These Ukrainians are built different. It was a convincing win for Mbili, but Derevyanchenko played his part. Did you watch it, and what did you think to it?
I thought Billy was good. I wouldn't necessarily call him as great. As you said, Sergey is a tough customer. I mean, he took what the best Triple G had to offer and lasted the distance. He took what the best Daniel Jacobs had to offer and lasted the distance. Guy doesn't get knocked out. I know that he fought with one arm in the end, but from Billy, I thought he was good, but I don't think it was anything more stirring than that. He did what he had to do to get the job done.
Do you not think he's a future great then, Mbili, the Canadian Frenchman?
I want to see him once or twice more before I make a decision.
Yeah, I'm actually really impressed with him. I think he's going to go places. I really do. There's talks about him stepping up against some big boys. I wouldn't rush him yet. I'd definitely wait a moment before chucking him in with world champions. But he's on the right trajectory for me.
Maybe a guy like I would say someone like I know Berlanga's got Canelo, but a Berlanga type might be good for him right now.
Yeah, that's a good call actually. Yeah, that would be a good fight. If say like Canelo beats Berlanga, that'd be a good fight to make afterwards, just to test him, Billy's mettle, see where he's at,
Yes.
Definitely. Okay then, mate, we'll move on to Abdullah Mason. Now, this kid, for me, is one of the best prospects in America, in the world. I think he really is a real one. He knocked his guy out in the second round. That was against Mike, I don't know how to say the surname, like Chan Jr.? Is it Chan or Chang?
Chang.
Chan Jr., yeah, and he knocked him out in the second round. What did you make to that, if you've seen it? I'm impressed with this lad every time.
I've been impressive with this guy ever since we've seen him, but now we got to start seeing him step up against stiffer opposition because everybody's telling him the big deal. We want to see how big of a deal he is now.
That's it. It's a bit like Keyshawn Davis and the likes. You want to see him step up now, and like Kid Austin, Floyd Schofield. You want to be seeing them stepping up now. They've showed they can do it against these mid-level operators. Let's see them against top tier. Let's see what they can do at the top table. That's what we need to be seeing, Serhan.
Maybe a guy like Frank Martin would be good for a guy like Mason.
That'd be a tough test, mate. That's a jump, innit? That's a jump at the moment. But yeah, I'd love it. I'd definitely watch it.
I'll admit to this. I think he's better than right now. I put him over both Davis and Schofield. I mean, of those three, I think he's the most impressive right now.
Yeah, Abdullah Mason. I probably agree, mate. Yeah, he was my pick of on New Year's Eve. We done a Fighter of the Year contest, and Abdullah Mason was my pick to be like the new explosion on the scene.
Yeah, before I came out of the show, I scrolled some of your older shows. I saw that one. That was good stuff by you guys.
Thank you very much, mate. Appreciate that. So next up, we're going to go to the UK now. We had Denzel Bentley, and he was fighting against Derek Osaze. Now, this uppercut, mate, it was something from God, wasn't it? What an uppercut from Denzel Bentley. He was being outclassed in that fight, Sir Handy. Let's be truthful. He was being outboxed, and then he just comes up with that bang. You're having that, son, and you're going to sleep. It was fantastic.
Another write-up I had. I did an honor for you guys over there in London, England. I did it right up because this guy was impressive. A couple years ago, I saw him when he fought Janabek, and he looked good, but he didn't get the win, obviously, but he looked good. He had that listless fight against Nathan Haiti when he lost the British. Haiti. When he lost the British Commonwealth title, he got scolded by the British media. He comes into 2024 with a new attitude. He beats a guy named Dingo before this second round knockout. And in this fight, as you said, Osaze was in control for the most part. But by far Bentley was timing up with the jab slowly, trying to keep it in debate. Out of nowhere, here comes the uppercut. When he hits him with the uppercut, his hand drops. Here comes a right hook over. Down he goes. Fight's over. Impressive KO win.
Yeah, it was beautiful, mate. I've got a lot of love for Denzel Bentley. He's been through some troubling times. We're not going to get into that.
He has, yes. Yeah,
but
I read it.
He was, he struggled. He was struggling for a while, but he's back now, and I can see him going places. When you got that kind of power and that kind of knockout, that's more than enough to beat a lot of men.
I'd like to see him fight one more fight in that weight class and maybe pursue a rematch with Janabek.
Yes,
because he's number 2.
Canale, I'd love that.
Yeah. because I think he's number 2 in the rankings of both the belts that Janabek holds.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, at 160, definitely. The last one that we'll go through was Ben Fail. Did you watch Ben Fail? He was against Omar Rodriguez. He won it on points over 8, but it was an absolute war of attrition. This was.
Yeah, I read. I didn't see it, but I saw the highlights. I saw the criticism from some of you guys over there. It was a case of where maybe he should have been better than what he was.
Yeah, him and his brother though, they're twins, aren't they? There's the Fail twins. Like they're both good, man. They give you like entertainment value. I've got a lot of respect for them. I think they're gonna make some noise in the boxing world over time. Just it's a little bit early yet, but they'll get there.
Give them time.
Yeah, that's it, mate. Just give them a little bit of time and let's see where they can go. Okay, mate. So that wraps up the cards from last weekend. Well, the ones that we want to talk about. So we're going to move on to what we were going to talk about last week. Salvador Sanchez. 42 years since the sad passing of the Mexican legend. He held 2 world titles from 80 to 82. Tragically died in a car crash, age 23. Sad state of affairs, mate. I'll let you take the floor on this one, Serhan, because you probably know a lot more about him than I do. So what's your thoughts, mate, on that? Like, what a legend, eh?
Before Canelo Alvarez, before Juan Manuel Marquez, Marco Antonio Barrera, Eric Morales, and Julio Cesar Chavez, it was Salvador Sanchez. People like to use the phrase do-it-all fighter rather loosely, but it fits Salvador Sanchez to mere perfection. When he won the title from Danny Little Red Lopez in a war where he just shredded Lopez's face, a star was in the making. He's south of the lightweight division because, at that time, guys like Duran and Leonard were the kingpins south of the heavyweights. He was starting to carve his niche little by little. This is a guy who basically had no amateur career because he had to fight because his family was flat broke in the streets of Mexico. I mean, poor to the well bottom type broke. I mean, he had no choice but to go to pro early.
A lot of Mexicans do turn, don't they? Sorry to interrupt. A lot of Mexicans turn pro at 15 because you're allowed over there, isn't you? Where it's 18 everywhere else or 16 some places.
Yeah, Chavez and Canelo did that. Yeah, Chavez and Canelo did that also.
Yeah.
But to tell you about Sanchez, whatever you saw a Mexican fighter, he was that. He could punch, he can box, he had great reflexes, he had ability to duck and slip, he could counterpunch like Juan Manuel Marquez could. This guy did it all for a brief stint. There was a high-profile fight on free TV in 1981 against Wilfredo Gomez in a Mexican-Puerto Rican war, which we know how that is. Yeah. Back then, the wars were so bad, they were fighting over who had the better salsa bands between the two nations going into this fight. I mean, it was a band war before the actual fight. A fight that was an actual pick'em. Sanchez shredded this guy in 8 rounds. Both his eyes were swollen shut. His nose was castrated in blood. And that basically ascended him to amongst the better fighters in the world, pound for pound in the top 5. I'll just read that real quick.
Yeah, just raw saying good evening, gents. Good evening to yourself, Mr. Hokum. Thank you for coming through, my brother.
So when he gets to that point of the top fighters pound for pound, 2 fights after he fights Wilfredo Gomez, he fought the great Azuma Nelson. And if you know how great Azuma Nelson was, Sanchez made him look novice. By about the 5th round on, just beat up Azuma Nelson and stopped him in the 15th round. His resume was His resume was for a guy that was a high-level fighter. He was fighting the better fighters, and his resume was getting better.
Yeah, didn't he end with a career of, sorry to interrupt you again, Sam, didn't his career end 46 fights, 44 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss? Who was the only man to beat him? Do you know?
It's back in the 6th pro fight. I remember the name. I don't think about that. It was a 6th, real early. Yeah, and I think he had a draw in there. I
can't remember who it was.
And he also had a fight against a fighter named Crawwell where he basically where he fights a 15-round fight. This is between Gomez and Nelson. He fights a 15-round fight, but a guy doesn't even breathe through his mouth. Think about the stamina. Think about that stamina for a minute. He's fighting a 15-round fight, not even breathing out of his mouth. So I mean, that guy was sensational, which leads to the unfortunate circumstance that took place in 82. He was scheduled to fight Juan Laporte. And it was headed to training camp for Laporte when his car unfortunately collided with the train and killed him on impact. Think about this also for a second. He was going to fight Laporte, likely probably going to beat Laporte. It was headed for 3 blockbuster showdowns at 4 junior lightweight showdowns. He's going to have to move up to 130, and he was going to likely have to face Alexis Arguello, Eusebio Pedroza, Hector Camacho and eventually Julio Cesar Chavez in an all-Mexican showdown.
Yeah, there's talk, Serhan, that he was going to be the best fighter, like the best featherweight, or did he move up to lightweight in the end? But he was going to be the best of all time. That's what his trajectory was being talked about as. He was going to be the best fighter of all time. Do you agree with that assessment?
Oh, he was on his way. Think about this. He was going to head to fights with Aguayo, Eusebio Pedroza, Hector Camacho, and Julio Cesar Chavez. The Chavez fight was going to have to take place because Chavez and Sanchez were the names in Mexico at that point. Chavez was coming up. Sanchez was a big dog. They were going to probably cross paths at 130, and we would have had a better conclusion of who was going to be the greatest Mexican fighter. Sanchez probably would have had this thing blown away hands down because his resume was going up, 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 and he had big fights coming down the line because his fight with Arguello was talked about in 83. It was probably going to be like the ultra super fight of that era because you had two of the top 3 Latino fighters all time with Roberto Duran in the middle there, and that was probably the biggest misfortune of all of this. Yeah. I remember the tragedy because it was televised nationwide on all across the U.S., even though it was in Mexico, because Sanchez was starting to become a global icon at that point. When that happened, the faces of Wilfredo Gomez and Azuma Nelson, his last 2 opponents, were dreaded in tears, being there for the tragic passing.
Yeah, it's a shame, mate. What a tragic loss, mate. Someone so great, 23 years old, not even in his prime yet. So imagine how good he would have been by his prime, by 28 years old. Imagine how good he could have been.
The guy was in the top 5 pound for pound when that happened. This guy could have easily been number 1 by the time it happened because he had big fights ahead of him with guys like Arguello, Camacho, and Pedroza, among the many of them.
Yeah, fantastic, mate. So R.I.P. to him, mate. What a sad, tragic end to a legend's career, like so early on. It's just you can't even fathom what it must have been like at the time. Obviously it's a little bit before my boxing time, but I've watched documentaries on him. I've seen videos of his fights. What ones are available. He was a real one, man. He was a proper character.
He was.
He's got a nephew who fights now, hasn't he? Is it a nephew or there's someone in his family line that still fight at the moment in Mexico?
I believe he has one. I can't think of his name, but I remember not too long ago. I don't know if he's still fighting or not, but he did have one, yes.
Yeah, I remember. Well, have you finished with that one, mate? You got anything to add to that, or should we leave that one where it is?
A lot of people are trying to point this guy's career to the same path as Mike Tyson and Roy Jones when they hit the downturn. Salvador Sanchez was probably the most disciplined fighter of his time. He wasn't going to let the trappings of success get to him. He was always not just a great fighter, but a humble human being and had a great approach to the sport. Guys like some of the guys today could learn from, because this guy basically fought every fight with a chip on his shoulder, knowing he had a chance to lose, and he just basically gave it his all, fight in and fight out. A bad loss for the boxing community as well as a country of Mexico, because he was probably for his time the greatest Mexican fighter ever.
Yeah, 100% agree. SWS Boxing, Sammy's joined us. He's saying, yes, lads. Big up to yourself, Sammy. Thank you for coming through. Mr. Neutral has said, preach, Serhan, so he agrees with everything you're saying there, brother. And he said he agrees with me. Well, there you go. Thank you, Mr. Neutral. Thank you for coming through, brother. Right, so next up then, I don't know, do you want to go to the upcoming fights for the week, or do you want to jump in on our topic for the week?
Let's do the topic, then we'll do the...
yeah, okay then, mate.
It's better that way.
So we're going for the 10 most wild and crazy moments in boxing, but this can be in the ring, outside of the ring. It can be whatever your interpretation of that is. So mine and Serhan's are probably going to be very, very different. But let's see. Before we get to that, I'm just going to read Mr. Neutral's comment. Imagine Sanchez at 30 years old and what he could have achieved. Yeah, he'd have been a clean sweep. He was already, WBO and Ring Magazine champ, wasn't he? I said earlier, 2-time world champ. It was Ring Magazine, wasn't it?
The premier guys in those divisions all time were Willie Pep, Sadie Sadler, and Henry Armstrong. Salvador Sanchez was head of that category before the tragedy.
Yeah, definitely. It doesn't get spoken about enough, does he, to be honest, for what he done in such a short space of time. The man's a legend, mate. So R.I.P. to him and blessings to his families and that. It is, 42 years. Just a massive loss to the world of boxing. What we could have had from that man.
Yes.
Tragedy. Right then, so we're going to go to the crazy top 10, crazy and wild moments in boxing. Like I said earlier, it could be in the ring, outside of the ring, in the build-up, whatever tickles your fancies. So I'll go with my number 10. I went for AJ Dillian White. When at the end of the round, Dillian started wailing on him and everyone got in the ring, it became a little bit of a mini riot. I'd gone for that at number 10, just because I watched it and it was fun, Dillian White, just a madman.
I saw some of that. Dillian White had some crazy moments in the ring. I mean, good and bad. I'll tell you that much. Dealing white was something else.
Yeah, I tell you something though, Serhan. Any other time, that fight would have been a disqualification because Eddie Hearn jumped in the ring. They all jumped in the ring. It was like that's
I
an
remember
automatic
heard.
disqualification,
I
isn't
remember
it?
heard. Yeah, I remember heard.
Trying to protect AJ, like, and Dillian's just wailing
Right.
on him in the corner. So, what's your number 10, brother?
Actually, my number 10 is the same sort of situation like yours. Floyd Mayweather versus Zab Judah, end of round 10. After the greatest illegal combination of boxing history by Zab Judah, the low blow and the rabbit punch, here comes Team Mayweather going after Judah, and boy, the hell break loose.
Love it. What year was that in, Serhan? Do you remember?
06.
2006, yeah, because I remember watching it. I do remember watching it.
Yes, because remember, Floyd Mayweather had Zab Judah set up for a knockout. That illegal combination basically saves him praise as he wound up surviving the distance.
Yeah, SWS Boxing's pissing himself laughing. Yeah, it was a funny one. So we'll move on to number 9 then.
Mm.
Oh, well done. Mr. Neutral's just said, love the subject. I particularly remember Tyson Lewis, PC, where it kicked off. That might be on one of our lists, Mr. Neutral. Stay tuned, brother, and hopefully we'll find out. My number 9 was Larry Merchant. Again, Floyd Mayweather was involved, like you just mentioned, when he said, if I was younger, I'd kick your fucking ass. Do you remember? I absolutely love that after his fight. It was just one of them moments in boxing history that you'll never forget, you know what I mean? Little old Larry Merchant saying to Floyd, if you were younger, I would knock you out. I loved it, mate. I loved it.
My favorite part about Larry Merchant, you may hate the guy all you want, but when he was not afraid to tell you the truth to your face.
I love Larry Merchant myself. I think he's fantastic.
A lot of people didn't like him, but because of how he was, but he wasn't afraid to speak the truth to your face because he spoke it from both as someone who did journalism way back during the Sugar Ray Robinson years in Philadelphia to his analyst years on HBO. And as a fan, because he did from all angles possible.
Mr. Neutral saying, big up to Larry Merchant. Yes, sir. Absolute legend, mate. And Floyd at the time was getting so arrogant, he needed putting in his place. And Larry Merchant to do it was just so funny.
Because what happened was he was going to mention Pacquiao.
Yeah, that was it. What fight was it?
Victor Ortiz.
Victor Ortiz. Hey, he's making a return this weekend, isn't he?
I saw that, yes.
After 2 years out. Former champion. Yeah. Very good fighter, Vicious was. Bit more of an actor nowadays than a boxer, isn't he? But he's coming back this weekend.
Right.
I just can't remember who he's fighting, to be honest with you. I thought I had it wrote down, but I didn't. Oh, I did. Rodrigo Damian Correa. He's fighting. SWS Boxing, what fight was that? Yeah, we've just answered that one, mate. Larry was a fucking legend, says Mr. Neutral.
Understatement.
Completely agree. So what's your number 9, Mr. Serhan Dai?
It involves Larry Merchant, but a different fight. This is a fight in 1997 took place in Boston between Daniel Zaragoza and Wayne McCullough. The synopsis was Zaragoza won the fight. Larry Merchant was interviewing Zaragoza. A drunk Irish fan from Boston tries to intervene in the interview, tried to say Wayne McCullough was robbed. Larry Merchant shoves the fan across the ring to the cop's hands and he got arrested. He shoves, a drunk fan tries to involve the interview saying, Wayne McCullough got robbed, which he didn't because Zaragoza legitimately won the fight. Larry Merchant shoved him out of the way to finish the interview. And he went to the interview like nothing ever happened.
Ah, that's how he is. Like, he's so cool, calm, and collected, wasn't he?
We all love Larry Merchant.
He really was. Right then, so we'll go to my number 8. We're getting through these really quick, mate. We're going to run out of bloody things to talk about here. There's always things to talk about in boxing, isn't there? But my number 8 was Oliver McCall when he broke down crying in round 3 against Lennox Lewis in the rematch. Like, I know he had his drug problems and all that. He had his problems, but he just broke down crying and refused to engage.
Yeah, I think a lot of everything just added up to him in that night out of nowhere.
It was strange how he done it in the fight, like, before the fight, in the press conference, but in the fight was a little bit odd, wasn't it?
Oh, it was. Yeah, never seen it like that.
Broke down crying.
Right. Remember, he knocked Lewis out. I think like 3 years before that. Yeah.
It was 3 years. 3 years almost to the day.
Yeah. Which made even less sense because he won the first fight.
Yeah, so you'd think he would have been bang up for it, like confident, but yeah, he was going through all his drug problems. He had family problems. We all know the story of Oliver McCall. It's a sad story, but that was just one of the most strange, bizarre moments in boxing. He just broke down crying during the fight and then refused to engage with him.
Correct.
And he ended up losing the fight, didn't he, in the end?
Yeah, they stopped in the 5th round because nobody wanted to deal with it.
Yeah, there was nothing going on. So what's your number 8 then, Serhan?
The post-fight protest by Don King regarding Mike Tyson and James Buster Douglas. The synopsis with this: the controversial 8th round knockdown, which was a long count that really wasn't. Douglas comes back to upset Tyson in the 10th. Don King files a protest with all the governing bodies trying to overturn the result, thinking the 8th round Mike Tyson was robbed. The problem, all the belts at the time refused to recognize Douglas as champion until they saw the official result. And about heavy public backlash, the pushback, King eventually waived the protest, which goes to show you all the theatrics of Don King boxing was at the time, because he did everything in his power, knowing Mike Tyson was his cash cow, to make sure Tyson had the belts. He tried to make one of those bizarre, stupid protests I've ever seen after a fight to try and overturn the result, even though the real result was in hand when Douglas legitimately won the fight, regardless of that long count in the 8th round.
Yeah, ridiculous. Mr. Neutral's just said, poor Oliver, man, I felt for him. Yeah, I did as well, mate.
Everybody did.
Yeah, terrible state of affairs. To be such a talent, because he was a very good boxer in his day.
A very good fighter, but one of the more sturdy chins in heavyweight history. I mean, I think for the longest time he wasn't knocked down. I mean, Frank Bruno hit him with everything in their fight, and he hardly was hurt. And you know how big of a puncher Frank Bruno was.
Yeah, he was a banger, mate. The old HP Brown Swords, man, definitely. He really was. But yeah, Oliver just had so much trouble outside the ring. It's such a shame. Another wasted career, really. Because imagine what he could have done if he'd have kept on the straight and narrow. Yeah,
at one point they were talking about him fighting Tyson. There's rumors that he had a sparring session where he held his own against Mike.
Yeah, Mr. Neutral's just said Don King was a legendary promoter, but a brutal businessman. That is so true.
Perfect assessment. That protest against the Tyson Douglas fight was Exhibit A.
Yeah. Mr. Neutral's also said best chin in history for me, Oliver McCall. Yeah,
it's up there.
Definitely wouldn't argue with that. Him and Cole Frott should be for me.
It's up there.
I mean, definitely. So we're on to number 7. Right, this one for me was Curtis Harper. Do you remember this fight against F.A. Jagbar? I think it was 2018. He got into the ring, the bell went, and then he just got out and walked out the ring.
I heard there was a pay dispute about it.
It was about, he was not happy with the payment that Ajagbo was getting. He was only had a couple of fights really at that time, and he was getting like 6 times the amount. So he was already like in his kit and that, in the ring, the bell goes, he just turned around and hoptails out.
You know what?
He didn't get a fight for 3 years after that.
Yeah, the weird way, I liked it. That's a way to protest. Hey, you drag me into this, I'll drag myself out. I'll play your game with it. I'll do it my way. That's how you want it. Don't come to me later. He did it perfectly.
Problem was, though, because of that, he didn't get booked for 3 years. He didn't get another fight, so it cost him in the end.
But I like the approach. I like what he did, though, in his own way, because sometimes these businessmen and promoters are absolutely cutthroat, and they rip you off.
Yeah, definitely. He got disqualified as well, basically, so it went down as a first-round disqualification to Ajagbe. Definitely. SWS Boxer says, yeah, he walked out. I've seen that one. And he said, I think he needed a poo. Thank you, Sam. He might have done, mate, but I think it was more about the pay dispute, brother. So what's your number 7, Mr. Serhan?
I talked about this a few times. It's it's the post-fight confrontation between Riddick Bowe and Lennox Lewis in 1992 after Riddick Bowe beat Evander Holyfield. The synopsis before I get into this. 2 weeks before that, Lennox Lewis and Razor Ruddock fought a tournament to determine the number 1 contender for the Bowe Holyfield winner. Lewis knocked him out in 2 rounds. He goes to the TVKO US pay-per-view version to be a guest commentator. Riddick Bowe spots him at ringside. He goes around to taunt Lennox Lewis, basically trying to get him into a fight. Lennox Lewis stands up, stares him down, basically says, I'm going to knock you out, to his face. Riddick Bowe and his manager, Rock Newman, walks away like a pair of cheap cowards as they are. Which led to what happened 2 months later, what you guys seen in Britain before we did in the States. Riddick Bowe throwing the belt in the garbage can to duck Lennox Lewis.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a great one. So we move on to number 6. I went for Riddick Bowe, his kickboxing scuffle in the ring in 1991 against Elijah Tillery. It was after their first round ended. Both men continued to fight, and then it just went mental, didn't it? And Tillery got disqualified in the end. Do you remember that one? And what was cracking there? What was all the bad stuff about in that fight?
Well, we talked about it at a few of the telecasts about Riddick Bowe and his manager, Rock Newman. Riddick Bowe was a talented fighter, but the management team were all about the theatrics. The problem was with this one, him and Elijah Tillery was a neighborhood war, and Elijah Tillery was one that could be easily provoked in this sort of thing because he had a sort of a track record of it. What happened in the end of the first round was, He threw a punch, blew a kiss, and then that's when Tillery started kicking. Rock Newman jumped in the ring, bear hugs Tillery. Bo and Newman threw him out of the ring. But because Tillery threw the first kicks, he was the one that was rightfully disqualified. Which, in a way, I understand Rock Newman's view because Bo had a schedule, was in line to move up the rankings for the Holyfield fight. Rock Newman didn't want to see Bo get injured or have his timing thrown off.
Yeah, and that's fair enough, really, isn't it, mate? To be honest, it would have ruined his career. He was only young at that time. It was back in '91, wasn't it? So Bo was still like quite a young pup.
Yeah, he was starting to climb up the rankings.
Yeah, definitely. SWS Boxing's asking you a question, Serhan. He's just said, why did he throw the belt in the rubbish? I know the answer, but you tell him. You tell it better than me.
Lennox Lewis was the official mandatory for Riddick Bowe because I mentioned Lewis beat Ruddock in a title eliminator. They had I guess there was some power play involved, as far as agreements. It was supposed to go to a purse bid, but Riddick Bowe's management team thought that Lennox Lewis was a bad style matchup. But because of the mandatory obligation, Bowe either had to defend it or vacate it. So Bowe vacated it. It was his manager, Rock Newman's idea to have the television theatrics that you guys saw in Britain first, where he just threw the belt in the garbage can, is basically openly saying, I'm ducking my mandatory. The fact that he never fought Lennox Lewis makes that look bad on him. But let me remind people, because I have Riddick Bowe a couple other times on my list, they're all about theatrics. They're all about the dollars, not the championship legacy. He ducked Lennox Lewis to fight a 38-year-old Michael Dokes in a fight that was nonsensical because Michael Dokes was at least 10 years past his prime.
100%. He's also said, is it because he was scared? Well, no, Serhan's just explained that now, Sam. No one liked Bowe's team. That's the truth. Everyone hated Riddick Bowe's team. Even they were trash, weren't they? Let's be truthful.
If I wanted to, I could have had a top 10 list of everything Riddick Bowe did, but I narrowed down like 4 of them. But I want to get to the stiffer ones here in a little bit.
Definitely. So what's your number 6 then, Serhan, brother?
My number 6, Andre Durrell against Jose Uzcategui. I can't pronounce the guy's name right.
I've got this one on my list, brother.
I think you know what I'm about to go with on this. The fight was called off because of a disqualification. The Durrell brothers were also okay fighters, but also about the theatrics, as guys like Carl Froch and Andre Ward would tell you.
Yep.
After the fight, Durrell's manager, Leon Lawson, sucker punches Uzcategui out of nowhere twice. And
the ref gives him one back.
Yeah. And after the fight, Leon Lawson was arrested and taken out of handcuffs and was charged with assault.
Yeah, that's my number 3, Serhan. You just took my number 3 there, bro. You took my number 3. SWS Boxing has said, I think Lewis would have won that fight. Yeah, 100%
I
he'd
think
have beat Riddick Bowe.
Remember, they fought for this gold medal in the '88 Olympics. Lewis knocked him out in 2 rounds. The sort of feeling was that knockout, even though it was amateur
as well.
Yeah, the feeling was, even though it was amateurs, it still resonated in Riddick Bowe's head psychologically, and that's why all that happened.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. Definitely, mate. It would have been light work for Lennox Lewis. He was just that style that Riddick Bowe could not deal with. You know what I mean?
If they were serious in making that fight, they would have had a bait at least 3 or 4 times. I mean, there's opportunities. Bowe's champ never even wanted to touch it.
Yeah. My number 5 then was Andre Durrell against Jose Uzcategui. In 2017, Uzcategui landed a shot after the bell, which caused a riot in the ring. And like you've just said, Durrell's uncle, Leon Lawson, sucker punched him and was later charged with assault. Durrell won by disqualification. So that was my number 5, not my number 3, like I said before.
Okay.
I was on the wrong one. So what's your number 5, Serhan, brother?
This is a 2-fight package because this involves Riddick Bowe. I talk about Riddick Bowe's theatrics. His bodyguard, Jason Harris. The first one, the second Riddick Bowe Evander Holyfield fight. The fan man comes in. He lands on the rope, falls into camp with Riddick Bowe. He gets his face bashed in. Guess what his weapon of choice was?
What was that?
A walkie-talkie.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, I remember the walkie-talkie incident.
For a guy as big as Jason Harris, why the hell are you using a walkie-talkie? Use your damn fist. The guy's a freaking puny compared to you.
That's it.
The second part,
Bowe Holyfield 2, was it? Bowe Holyfield 2.
I got one more with this guy real quick.
Okay.
Second part, because it's a 2-part package. When the first Bowe Andrew Galata fight rioted, he was the one that instigated it. Because guess what he did to Andrew Galata? He hit him with a walkie-talkie.
Yeah, same thing. I remember. We've talked about this before on the show, haven't we?
Yeah. I brought this up because that's I talked about the theatrics of Riddick Bowe's team. That's what they were about. They were all about the theatrics. They're about, dollars, and they were about all kinds of different things. Because Riddick Bowe was a talented fighter, but his management team suckered him into the trappings of success, and it became all about the theatrics.
Yeah.
And one last thing about Galata before I go to this.
Yeah, you've plenty of time, mate. You crack on, pal. You talk as long as you need to.
2 weeks after this, there was a comedy show late night here in the States. Andrew Galata was on it. He had a cut this long on the back of his head that required 36 stitches from being hit with a walkie-talkie.
Yeah, remember back in them days, the walkie-talkies were big blocks, weren't they? Big old blocks with loads of knobs on and that, and like a big stick, like metal, and then plastic covering. They could hurt back in the day.
Yeah, well, the thing is, that thing broke in 6 pieces on Galata's head.
Yeah. SWS Boxing just said Riddick Bowe's being mentioned a lot. Yeah, that's because of his teammate, because his team's a bunch of clowns. And Mr. Neutral is agreeing with SWS and saying Lewis for me.
Agree.
To beat Riddick, yeah. Completely agree, mate. That the James the Fan Man one against Bo Holyfield, that's my number 2, so we'll get to that. But number 4 then we move on to now, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Neutral's just said Rock Newman and DK pulled Bo out of the fight with Lewis too.
One minor correction. Don King was never involved with Riddick Bowe. I mean, they were talks, but he never got fully involved. He had, I think he was promoted Lennox Lewis for the Tony Tucker fight, but there's a whole bunch of he never got involved with Riddick Bowe.
He's also said without telling him, Bo went mad. Yeah, he always goes mad.
He did.
His team just don't know how to behave, do they? Let's be truthful.
Yeah, understatement. We could have had a top 10 list of what Bo's team did, but I didn't want to go there.
Yeah, right. So we'll move on to my number 4 then. I went for Steve McCarthy when he got attacked by his opponent Tony Wilson's mum with a shoe in the ring. Do you remember that one?
I saw that. Look at this up, and I saw the replay. I got a good chuckle out of it.
Yeah, like he was on the verge of stopping Wilson, wasn't it? He literally got him with an uppercut, a couple of overhands, and it looked like he was about to stop it. Then his mum and the cornermen all just rush into the ring, and she's got him in the corner with a shoe, just clapping on him. Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? That is mad. I was about, I think, 1989, I believe that was.
Yeah, 89.
Like yeah.
There were actually 2 good fighters, too, from that part of the country. The 2 names you mentioned, McCarthy and...
McCarthy and Wilson. Yeah, Tony Wilson and Steve McCarthy.
They're solid fighters, too.
Yeah, I didn't know too much about it. It's a little bit like I was probably 8 at the time. Not even that. I was 6 or 7, so I'd only just started watching boxing. But I've seen it since.
They weren't going to be a world championship caliber, but they gave, good quality fights, decent careers.
Yeah, well, after Steve McCarthy got assaulted by Wilson's mum with a shoe, he refused to carry on the fight, and he ended up losing. They classed it as a TKO win for Wilson. How mad is that? If that was today, they'd have been thrown out for his mum coming in the ring and assaulting him with a fucking shoe. You know what I mean?
Right.
But they gave the win to Wilson because McCarthy refused to carry on the fight.
Right.
Yeah, so, and I think this is for you because I don't remember the lad, to be honest. Mr. Neutral saying, guys, do you remember Gary Mason? I don't, to be honest.
Lennox Lewis gives this guy credit because he fought for the British Commonwealth title. If it wasn't for Gary Mason, Lewis wouldn't have been made it to the States because Lewis credits Mason, who was undefeated at the time, a very sound British heavyweight.
I don't remember. How can I not have heard of him?
I think it was like 91.
Oh, so I'd have been young then. I'd have been young.
Yeah.
Because I was only born in 83.
That was basically the fight that propelled Lennox Lewis to come to the States.
Okay. SWS Boxing saying mad that. I think he's talking about the mum with the shoe. It was crazy, mate. Honestly, watch it. You'll find it on YouTube somewhere. And Mr. Neutral said, there you go, Serhan, and gives you some claps because you know your stuff, man. Chabit Boxing has said, fun fact, Lennox Lewis fought a man from my hometown, mentioned him in his book. Well, Chabit's from Wales, so I can't remember what part, to be honest, Chabs, but if you want to put it in there. But yeah, he fought a guy from his hometown. It's like, is it Aberystwyth or Andy Gerard? Andy Gerard or Gerard?
Yeah, like early in Lewis's career.
Yeah.
Yeah, Andy Gerard, yeah. It was probably way early in Lewis's career.
Yeah, it's got to be early because I can't remember it, to be quite honest. And so we're on to number 4, Serhan. What's your number 4, my brother?
Mike Tyson, Lou Savarese.
Okay, and what occurred in this one?
Fight's over. Mike Tyson still swinging away. He's swinging referees, swinging security, and basically they're still fighting. After the fight, Mike Tyson is still swinging away.
And what happened? Did he get done for it? Did he get disqualified or anything?
No. The fight was already stopped. But even after the fight stopped, Tyson still wanted to fight on, which we know how Mike Tyson was in 2000. He was basically, and of course, that's a fight where he had the infamous "I want your heart, I want to eat his children, praise be to Allah," and the wild stuff about Lennox Lewis. It was that fight.
I remember that. Yeah. Bloody hell, man. He was a madman, weren't he?
At that point,
He was a mad one.
At that point, he was about theatrics because basically after the Douglas fight, he even admitted himself he was done. He was trying to make the dollars.
Yeah, definitely. He's still trying now, isn't he? Let's be truthful. He's still trying now.
Right. We shouldn't.
SWS Boxing said, was that the Scottish guy?
Either Scotland or Wales. It's one of those countries. I don't remember which. But it was like super.
I don't know either.
Early lose his career, yeah.
Right, so we move on then to number 3 of our top 10. I went for the ref gets sucker punch and then lands a big shot back. That was in, I think it was Dominican Republic it was. And it was between Julio de Jesus and he was against Angel Cruz. Angel Cruz or Angel Cruz. It was on June the 28th of this year, so it was not long ago. Basically, the ref stopped the fight in Angel Cruz's favour against Jesus, and Jesus turned around and got mad and smacked the ref. And then the ref, seemed to take it and walk away, and then he's turned around, gone after him and fucking clapped him. The ref's just gone and put one on him he was having none of it, mate. And then it all just kicked off. The ref ended up walking out the ring and walking away and leaving the two fighters in the ring. Angel Cruz got the win, by disqualification in the end. Absolutely amazing. It was in round 2 as well, so it was early on in the fight. It was mental.
I'm surprised no referees have done this more often.
Yeah, he really laid one on him as well. But the cornerman, I can't remember the cornerman's name, but the cornerman jumped in and caught the referee's fist right before it clapped him. Because he would have knocked him spark out else. He literally, I don't know where he came from, he just stepped through the ropes and just bang, and just caught his fist. It was absolutely amazing technique from the corner man. I tell you, he must have been a pro boxer himself in his day because his movement,
probably
the ref really overhand right, really put one on him, and he
I gotta see this.
And just catches it like somehow out of the Matrix. You know what I mean? It was mental. So that's my number 3, Serhan. What's yours, brother?
Ear bite. You know what I'm talking about.
Which one? Sorry, which one?
Ear bite. You know what I'm talking about.
Mike Tyson, that's my number 1. Mike Tyson against Evander Holyfield, the rematch in 1997.
Okay, I'll give you the synopsis, so I'll give you the number 1 platform. The ear bite, because, headbutts or whatever the Tyson people wanted to claim. After that once, but twice, which he should be disqualified the first time. I don't know why he wasn't. After the fight, Tyson goes after Holyfield because after he was disqualified. And, of course, he starts swinging at security guards. He's probably the only guy that can get away with it. He was withheld $3 million of his fight purse and had a 1-year suspension because of it. The great thing with this is years later, they laugh about it. Evander Holyfield was on a Mike Tyson podcast talking about the whole thing. They mentioned the headbutts. You know what Evander Holyfield said? I got headbutted too. And Mike Tyson just laughed.
And he did as well.
Right.
Just a couple of comments before we carry on, Serhan. SWS Boxing said, really, what show was this? It was in not Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, later. Yeah, check it out. Jabit Boxing said, 3rd fight, Lewis won it in the 4th. Yeah. Mr. Neutral, Sam's first, sorry. Did the ref knock him out? No, because the corner man of Angel jumped in and caught the punch. Literally, it was an overhand right, like an absolute haymaker from the ref. And his cornerman just appeared from nowhere and caught his hand. And literally caught it and just swallowed his hand up. It was unbelievable. You need to watch it. It was fantastic. Mr. Neutral said Crystal Palace 1989, answering to SWS Boxing. Sorry, Serhan, you carry on, mate. What you were saying?
I was done. Your turn.
Oh, okay, mate. So what we're on to now? We're on to number 2. Did you do your number 3?
Yes, it was the ear bite.
Oh, of course, yeah, which was my number 1. So we've pretty much covered that then. Right, my second, number 2, was James the Fan Man Miller when he drops into the ring in the Bo Holyfield 2 match. He just literally parachuted into the ring in the 7th round, didn't he? Back in 1993, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's my number 2, mate. It was just a manic moment. It was a professional parachuter, wasn't he, James Miller?
Yes.
And he's just come, the fan man they called him. He just come flying. He got all tangled up in the ropes. And didn't the security start attacking him and beating him up as well?
Yeah, that's when Jason Harris smashed his face with a walkie-talkie and basically knocked him all cold.
Yeah, that's the one. Classic moment, mate. Classic moment. So what's your number 2, Serhan? Unless you want to continue on that one for a moment, mate. You've got plenty of time.
Okay, because my number 2, my number 1, I'm going to need a couple extra minutes because it involves deeper stuff than just bizarre. Number 2.
Okay, you crack on, pal.
Okay, number 2. This took place in New York City. It was a fight between James Brewer and Richard Grant. It's a lower level fight. Probably not familiar with the names. It was telecast here on ESPN. It was a charity event to help the firefighters in New York after 9/11, which you know what happened there.
I've seen this. I've seen this fight.
Okay. I think you're about to go. Grant wins
Yep.
this fight. He goes to congratulate Brewer. James Brewer with his hand completely wrapped, ungloved, sucker punches. Richard Grant knocks him out cold, dislocates his jaw, turns it sideways like this. I mean, you can see when he's down. He was down like this. You thought he was dead.
Yeah, he looked unconscious.
Bob Papa and Teddy Atlas, who commentated the fight for ESPN, were screaming off the top of their lungs for James Brewer to get arrested. The New York PD security commission team all shrouded him in this corner, escorted him to the locker room together. After he got dressed, he was arrested, booked, and sent to prison for this.
Yeah, didn't he end up killing someone later as well?
Yeah, that's my final point with this. He wound up killing Max Kellerman's brother, Sam Kellerman.
That's it, Sam Kellerman. Yeah.
He killed him with a sledgehammer, and after he's done killing the sledgehammer, busting his bones, he set his house on fire.
Yeah, caved his skull in, didn't he? Caved his skull completely in. There are like 112 fractures to his skull. It's disgusting.
Yeah, this is like I don't like giving time to scumbags like this, as you and I talked about this a couple weeks ago. But this has to be brought up because there's something deep with this. I mean, why would you want to? You lost a fight, you wait till after the fight to sucker punch someone. Your head goes in a tailspin and you kill someone. His biggest lockout was he agreed to admit to killing him. They dropped his charges to manslaughter. He's serving 26 years. He's probably never going to see a day of light ever again. But it's this sort of thing of boxing that's like, what the hell are you guys thinking? Yeah,
people say, Serhan, that is the worst thing to ever happen to boxing. Like, he's the worst person that's ever boxed. That's what a lot of people say that I talk to. They say it's the worst thing to ever happen to the sport.
Trust me, one of these shows, I'm going to come up with a top 5 list, and he's going to be on it.
Yeah, definitely. I'll tell you what, we'll pencil that in for the future. Definitely, bro. Definitely.
Yes.
So what was your other point, mate? What was your other one? Because you know what mine is. My first one's Mike Tyson biting off of Holyfield's ear in 1997 in the rematch. So you can keep going, mate, on yours for a moment.
Okay. My number one, I want to need 5 extra minutes because I want to detail this. It's Louis Resto, Billy Collins. You know what I'm about to talk about.
Yeah.
I'm going to exclude the plaster Paris and the water because that was in the documentary. I'm going to talk about what I lived from the 10-year period of this. We know what happened.
Boxing, big up yourself, sir. Thank you. Subscribe if you haven't joined us before, mate. Sorry, sir. Crack on, mate.
Okay, I'm going to talk about this before the documentary because the documentary revealed different stuff because I lived through this. This was on the undercard of Duran Moore, as was talked about.
Yeah. I
was told after the fight when Louis Resto went to congratulate Billy Collins Jr. His trainer Billy Collins Sr. His dad grabs Louis Resto's gloves, squeezes the padding, screams off the top of his lungs looking for the commissioner, inspectors. All the padding's out of the goddamn gloves. They're all out. Guess who comes to try to bail out Louis Resto? You can take a wild guess. It's too easy. Panama Lewis.
Oh, Panama, of course, yeah.
Panama Lewis and Louis Resto try to leave the ring before the referee and the commissioner takes a look at the gloves. They were cut off by referee Tony Perez. And they're at that corner. They were investigating the gloves. Panama Lewis, the reject-looking hooker-smoking reject from Cool in the Game looking-like, whatever the fuck he was looking like that night.
Yeah.
Basically screaming off the top of his lungs, those are the gloves they gave us. Those are the gloves they gave us.
They cut a big chunk out, hadn't he? Cut a big chunk of it out and the padding was gone.
1 ounce of padding was taken out of both gloves.
Yeah.
It's just like with James Brewer, excuse me. They escorted him to the locker room, impound his gloves. 2 weeks later, an emergency hearing was taking place in a lower level court to determine their careers. We know what happened. Louis Resto was suspended indefinitely, which he was really just thrown out. Panama Lewis was just thrown out.
And he went to prison as well, Panama, didn't he?
Yeah, this is what I'm gonna talk about next, which is the trial. Actually, backtrack to the pinch. The Billy Collins, the sad story there. The law took everything away from him. Got into alcohol and depression. Got into fights that he shouldn't have. Got into fights with his own family. Was heavily intoxicated and just drove his car off a cliff in Tennessee. So, you know how that part goes. Get that out of the way. But to the trial, it was revealed, which a documentary, which I'm sure it was announced, that this was all over the fact that they met a high-level drug trafficker at a place called Victor's Restaurant in New York City because he wanted a wager on Louis Resto, a journeyman fighter.
Yeah.
The documents revealed several things. Panama Lewis basically told the guy, I'll take care of the gloves. He wagered a high amount of money because it was later revealed it was talked about in the locker room. Louis Russo admitted it in an undercover interview with a district attorney.
Yeah, seen it.
We talked about the bathroom a couple episodes back. In that bathroom, a fellow named Lee Black, who was Panama Lewis's right-hand man at the time, was with him. He couldn't testify. He went back and forth on his testimony. He didn't want to testify because there were rumors that Panama Lewis's people were sending him death threats.
Yeah, he was involved with the mob, weren't he?
Yeah. But he stood up, went to the testimony, and basically said to the prosecutors, he confronted Panama Lewis in that bathroom, saying, "You're going to get somebody killed." He later admitted it. Of course, there's the hoopla with the inspectors, which was revealed. They were in and out, in and out. Nobody watched the whole thing, which was just which made the whole thing even more bizarre.
Yeah.
There was an interview. There's also an interview Larry Russell conducted with Len Berman of NBC Sports. And Louis Russell's just lying his guts out, saying he doesn't know what happened. He didn't know what happened. And basically, Len Berman told him with his face, "You're going to jail." And he basically said, "What?" And Len Berman said to his face, "You're going to jail." And Louis Russell basically just dusted off like it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, after
boxing, sorry, he just said a sad story. This, and he also says, wasn't Resto the underdog as well? Yeah, he was massively the underdog, wasn't he?
Yes.
Sorry, carry on, mate. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Okay, a couple more things. I'll go wrap this up.
Yeah.
It was revealed a high-level DA named James Rodriguez and a couple guys jogged with Louis Russo. What's called wiretap, which is like a wire interview, like what we're doing, but it's like undercover. He basically confessed to the DAs all this happened. Problem was the interview he had was inadmissible by this court that was doing it. They wouldn't allow it because it would have changed a lot of things. But the biggest one that came out of this. We have a jury panel here in the States. It was called the 13th juror was the gloves. The gloves were present in front of the jury. They were seeing the whole thing, looking at the gloves, seeing that the 1 ounce of padding was taken out of each glove of Louis Russo that he wore that night.
Yeah.
Louis Russo and Panama Lewis never testified on their behalf. And there was also debates whether the gloves would have gone, but it still didn't matter. That they were done. They were charged with second-degree murder of a deadly weapon, which is Rusto's fists.
Yeah.
Assault, conspiracy, and in Panama's case, tampering with a sports contest. That's all you needed to know. They had a chance to testify because there were still suspicious facts throughout this entire trial, which, I pulled the article up of the New York Times in '86. It was all over the place, but still, they had every chance to do something, to say something. They didn't. They almost like they threw in the towel because they were found guilty by everybody unanimously. Each guy had to do at least 2 years in prison apiece.
Yeah, they knew the truth, Serhan. They couldn't defend themselves. That's why they didn't testify, because they knew they were guilty.
And the worst one of all of this, the Collins family sued the New York State Athletic Commission for negligence due to, we talked about, nobody being in the room when this happened.
Yeah, because that's why now it's mandatory to have your hands wrapped in front of a trainer or a part of the other team's staff.
The state of New York threw the lawsuit out, that they had no merit. Which is an absolute disgrace because they're as guilty as everyone else allowing this to happen.
100%, mate. 100%. Well, thank you, sir. And that was fantastic, mate. Lovely little walk down memory lane. Although it's a bad story, love the way you narrated it, mate. Thank you so much. One last thing. This is something no one saw coming because I was talking about how I lived it for those 3 years. No one saw anything like this ever. Yeah, that's it, mate. That's it. It was a terrible time for boxing. Let's be truthful.
It was.
Really was. Right, so we'll quickly move on. We've got 5 minutes, just over 5 minutes left for this week's Boxing Media Hub Boxing Hour, episode 10. So it's kind of a milestone for us, Serhan. We got through 10 episodes, mate. Big 10.
Yes.
We'll make number 11 even better. So we'll talk about the upcoming fights this weekend. We've got Floyd Mayweather against the gangster's grandson, John Gotti III. What's your thoughts on that? You're going to watch it? It's $90 in the US, isn't it?
No.
Oh, is it not?
No.
I told
I'm
last night
watching
in the space it was $89.99.
No. I said no, as in not watching.
Oh, no, you're not watching it. Yeah, I don't blame you, mate. I don't bloody blame you. I'm not either. The only reason I would watch it is Kamel Moten's fighting on it. I love a bit of Kamel Moten.
I like him. I like
Victor Vasquez, but it's only a 6-rounder, so I'm not paying all that money for 6 rounds of boxing.
He'll handle business.
Yeah, he will. We've also got the Victor Ortiz, Vicious Victor, is back against Rodrigo Damian Correa. It's good to
Well,
see him back, but 2 years out, he's been very inactive. He already looked shot last time he fought. What's your thoughts on that? Do you think he gets the win, or do you think he gets done by Damian Correa?
hard to say. As I said, the inactivity is going to be an issue.
Yeah, definitely, matey, definitely. And that's pretty much the whole card on that. We'll quickly touch on, because we've got 4.5 minutes left. Did you see the announcement of the Bivol Beterbiev undercard?
Great card. I'm looking forward to the Bivol fight. The Wardley Clark rematch is going to be a cracker. You know that. Jayo Pataya, it's been a hot topic on our shows. I'm looking forward to seeing him again. Probably the most feared man right now because CBS is probably hiding underneath a couch somewhere. But,
Yeah, completely agree, mate.
Of course, Shakur Stevenson in the showcase. It's a good card from top to bottom.
Yeah, we've got Shaq against Joe Cordina. That's what I was going to touch on first. So Joe Cordina moving up from 130, where he got knocked out by Anto Kakache. It was his first loss, but he was so drained at the weight. But it's a massive step up to go and fight Shakur Stevenson. Shakur is another level.
Yeah,
I can only see this going one way, bro, can't you?
Yeah, same way. Shakur.
Yeah, all day long, mate, all day long. My favourite fight from this card, well, I've got two favourites, to be honest, other than obviously the main event. We've got Liam Cameron fighting. And I love Liam Cameron. He's fighting Ben Whittaker. Like, obviously, Ben's the favourite, but Liam is a banger, and he will go in there and give his absolute all.
Please put this guy on the floor, Liam Cameron. Please put this guy on the floor.
Yeah, oh, I would love it if he dropped Ben Whittaker. I would love it, mate. I would absolutely. It'd make my year if Liam Cameron drops Ben Whittaker. Whether he wins or not, I don't care. As long as he drops him, and believe me, if anyone can, it's the Cannonball. He's a real one, Serhan. He's a real one. He's a real good lad as well. Real family man. Real lovely, lovely fella. Check out his interviews on Boxing Media Hub, mate. He's a real one.
I will.
We've got Chris Eubank Jr. This was a surprise to me. He's fighting against Camille Saramenta. I don't get this fight at all. He was talking about, I want Canelo, I want Bud, I want the Billy Joe Saunders rematch. And now he's fighting Camille Saramenta. I've barely heard of the man. I know he's lost 2 fights to 2 big opponents, but other than that, who is the guy? He's not relevant right now.
Can he please beat Eubank for us?
Yeah, oh, that's all I'm saying, mate. Yeah, just stop this hype train that is living off Daddy's name. You touched on the Jaya Pataya one. So Jaya Pataya is fighting a lad called Jack Massey. Jack Massey is a good fighter. He's coming off a good win against Isaac Chamberlain. He's a very good fighter. I don't think he stands a chance against Jaya Pataya, though. I think Opataya is going to absolutely break his heart.
That's not going 5 rounds.
No, I agree. SWS Boxing has said, come on, the Welsh Wizard. He's talking about Joe Cordina. Embarrassing fight for Eubank. It is, mate, to be honest. Eubank beats him easy. One smack. Let's have it, Massa, because it's Jack One Smack Massa. That's his name. So big up yourself, SWS Boxing.
I like it. I like Massey, but Opataya's at a different level.
Yeah, Opataya's, for me, is a future pound for pound top 3. I think in 3 years' time, when Usyk's gone, Fury's gone, Canelo's gone, I think we'll be talking about Jai Opataya as the face of boxing. I genuinely do. I really do, mate. Right, the other one I wanted to go into, Sky Nicholson, the Australian, against a personal favourite of mine. I've got a signed glove from her here. What my brother Joel got me. Miss Raven Chapman.
We talked about that the last time a little bit. It should be a good one.
Yeah, it's going to be a real one, mate. But it's actually announced now, Sky against Raven. Everyone's going for Sky, of course, because she's the hotter prospect and that. But if you haven't watched Raven Chapman, go and give her a watch. She stands up tall. She can smack. She will not back down from Sky Nicholson. She will give it her absolute all. And hopefully we'll be holding up another one of these afterwards.
Yeah, heck of a fight. It's not going to be easy for Nicholson. This is a toss-up, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Definitely. I'm with you, Serhan. A lot of people think it's a walkover for Sky. It fucking ain't, mate. Raven's a real one. It's going to be like SWS Boxing just said, mate. He couldn't have put it any better. I think it's closer than people think.
Agree.
So true, mate. So true. Thank you, Samir. Sky versus Raven, great fight. Jai is a different beast, 100%, mate.
Understatement.
He really is. The Aussie's a real one. He's a real one. Well, Serhan, thank you so much, mate. This is pretty much the end now. We've just done episode 10 of the Boxing Media Hub Boxing Hour. We'll be back for episode 11 next Thursday at the same time, 5 p.m. in the UK, 12 p.m. USA Eastern Time. So big up to yourself, Serhan. Thank you so much as always, mate. And you can find Serhan on Serhan on X, and he does write-ups for what's the channel called, sir?
The show's called Serhan on X. It's on the X platform once a week. It's due to my business complexes once a week. I announce it like a couple hours early before I do it. I don't have a set schedule like we do. It's something I do. There's a heads up. One public service announcement. I have a write-up on the Assault in the Ring documentary coming up. In 2 weeks' time, I will have a 30-minute tribute to that documentary, September 2nd, live on X. September 2nd, not this Monday, next Monday. Everybody will get the announcement.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. And what's the company that you do the write-ups for, the sports company? What's that one called?
We Like Sports. I have a write-up on
sports.
I have an Assault in the Ring documentary coming up on that here in a couple of days.
Fantastic. And make sure everyone subscribes to Boxing Media Hub. Hit Serhan up, Serhan on X, Serhan Dai, and check me out as well at Jam's Boxing Chat on X. And you can also find me on YouTube doing boxing shorts. But for the best part, Boxing Media Hub is the place to be. God bless one and all. Thank you so much, my man from Cincinnati, Ohio, Mr. Serhan Dai, my brother from another mother, my Turkish Cincy man. I will see you again in a week's time. God bless, man.
God bless.